There's been a recent trend of horses in gacha games. Even Xavier appears on jet black horse like some horseman of the apocalypse. He's also received a promotion from a charming little prince to the rank of majestic king, who raised the bar so high that his fellow companions were left behind. Xavier King of Darknight is an HP-based single-target DPS who also receives support in the form of AoE damage. He's the first companion in Last History who equals his resonal skill damage with Ardenov. And he also have my favorite ability, which is ignoring the opponent's defense. In this video, I will show you how to build this companion and explain his biggest kit issues. I'm Luin and you can call me Ari, and this is how to tame this Excalibur! In combat mode, you will notice a yellow bar under the HP one, which can be divided into 3 sections or appear as one long one. Depending on your current state, this bar will fill up or decrease. Before entering the arena, you are not in Darknight Reign state. This phase looks like the scene from Night Vow Requiem card, where MC and Xavier were playing with flowers, and that's exactly what we will do here. So first we need to charge last words as quickly as possible. The first step will depend on your NV rank. If you only have R0 NV, start the rotation from one charge attack, and the remaining NV ranks move on to the next stage, which is the use of resonal skill and support skill. If you perform this movement correctly, you will immediately notice this icon, which means that yellow bar will charge faster. Perform some basic attacks and charge attack until the yellow bar is 2/3 full. Then use active skill, which deals AoE damage, restores energy charge, reduces support skills cooldown and grants damage reduction. Also, you'll notice the button has changed and now shines gold. This is an empowered active skill. Each next active skills consume 1 stack of last words, reduce cooldown of Darknight Coronation and give you 1 flower. You need to collect 3 flowers to receive a full buff in the next state, which called Darknight Reign. How to collect these flowers? It's very simple. Once you've charged the yellow bar to over 2/3, perform 2 active skills and quickly tap support skill and use active skill again. I also recommend moving slightly away from the enemy to avoid being hit, because that might disrupt your flower collection. The faster you collect 3 flowers, the sooner you will reduce cooldown of Darknight Coronation. But before activating this additional skill, you need to use resonal skill. Then you will enter into Darknight Reign state, and you will notice that your screen is surrounded by golden flames, where Xavier and MC deal the highest damage output. Also, active skills icon has changed its appearance, and this attack now has a blessing that creates golden circles. Remember that the game defaults to targeting the opponent who is in the front of MC, or you will have to direct her towards the target. In this state, you can only use 3 active skills, and previously collected flowers reduce their initial cooldown. The empowered support skill doesn't exist here. It's also worth using Signature Wand with this companion because it grants additional damage and damage boost to weakened. So, after collecting 3 flowers, perform resonal skill and activate Darknight Coronation. You are in Darknight Reign state and perform a series of 3 active skills with a blessing and support skill, and in the meantime you can perform basic attacks. Keep in mind that you will be able to perform only 2 support skills with R0 NV, not 3 support skills, like in the case of R1 NV. The rotation is much smoother from rank 1, because every time you use active skill, you will get support skill, and also you don't need to use charge attack before resonal skill. Also, your damage will increase by 40% in Darknight Reign state, and your ultimate and yellow bar will charge faster. That's why I highly recommend this rank. R2 NV represents an OP buff that ignores the opponent's defense and restores your HP, so you and Xavier will deal higher damage. R3 Envy is a true feast for the eyes, where everything is filled with golden flowers and circles, and you can stack your damage output. Let me remind you that each higher rank has the buffs of the previous lower ones. When you should use Arden Oath. My testing shows that we get 5% more damage after activating Darknight Coronation and then using Arden Oath. Now let's see what the full rotation looks like for Xavier KoD with NV Solar Pair cards. Run into the arena and perform one charge attack, and use Rest skill and Support skill. Perform a series of charge attack and 2 basic attacks until you get the more than 2/3 of the yellow bar. Next, you need to collect 3 flowers by using 2 active skills, Support skill and Active skill. Use Resonance skill and tap Darknight Coronation. You are in Darknight Reign state, and if you can, use Arden Oath. Perform a series of movements consist of active skill, support skill, and basic attacks. After that, Darknight Reign state ends and start the full rotation again. Third generation of myths is slowly revealing Dev's unique way of thinking. This time they create a companion who is practically forced to use their signature solar pair cards. That's right, Xavier KoD has a trouble with fasting charger of the yellow bar because this effect only appears on NV solar pair cards. Pilgrim's Prayer effect does not appear as a passive of companion or his signature wand. You can only charge last words by using normal and empowered support skills, and simply over time. Therefore, if you can perform a perfect dodge, you might be able to handle KoD with other solar pair cards quite well, but you should be aware of this difficulty which extends the rotation. Furthermore, fighting KoD without a signature wand also seems pointless, as you lose AoE damage and half of buffs, such as additional damage and damage reduction along with energy charge reduction. MC with Hunter Claymore looks funny in Darknight Reign state, where she can use active skill which supports Claymore, because active skill's bottom is changed in that state, so she is forced to use the wand. Regardless of how you play this companion, you should always build a team by selecting weapons, cards, and Protocores that are appropriate for him. That means they must be compatible with his power scaling. Xavier KoD is a dual scaler who benefits most from high HP but also a decent amount of attack. Therefore, it's best to build him in full Stella match, where you need to meet Protofuse Stellacron requirements and include 5-star cards with the highest possible ranks and 5-star cards with HP talents. You can also include 5-star cards with attack talent, but be sure to put Protocores with high rolls of damage boost to weakened and HP bonus in substats. Consider 4-star and 3-star cards as possible aid in a team composition, and keep in mind that building a team with them is more difficult due to their lower base stats. Please don't waste your precious materials on leveling up cards that are irrelevant, unless you main Xavier and you raise his affinity level. Remember that the higher level and rank of your cards, the easier it's transfer attributes and deal higher damage. Be sure to balance your total stats between cards talents type and Protocores you have in your inventory to overcome various challenges. I recommend building Xavier KoD around 150k to 160k HP and 6k to 7k attack to pass the highest orbits in a full Stella match. Since the devs are updating the orbits levels, I recommend aiming for 160k to 180k HP and 7k to 8k attack. If you're interested in brute forcing with Xavier KoD on high orbit levels, make sure you have high enough stats and card ranks, and also try to use additional buffs from attribute bonus. I recommend having at least R2 and V solar pair cards along with R3 lunar standard ones and adapting these stats. In Love in Deepspace, we have enemies that can be protected by a shield that needs to be destroyed by using resonance skill. So during such challenges, you should build a companion with high damage boost to weakened and full Stella match, especially since Xavier KoD has the highest damage output in Darknight Reign state. For more effective performance, use perfect match and attribute bonuses. Therefore, try to place as many colors as possible that will give you additional 5% buff per card. Then look for appropriate substats on Protocores. You should prioritize HP bonus, damage boost to weakened, flat HP. Apply more crit rate and crit damage mainly in matches where you can find unshielded enemy and you try to brute force the fight. I think Xavier KoD can handle 50% crit rate well. But if he doesn't perform critical hits regularly enough, increase crit rate by using higher ranked lunar cards, especially since you can also buy some in Wishing Well shop. You can choose Protocores with higher crit rate in substats, or alternatively, use 1 or 2 crit rate in main stats on Delta cores. If your Protocores get rolls with attack bonus, flat attack, off strength, or cards talent after enhanced, keep them in your inventory. These are the highest rolls you can find in substats, but remember that you usually get 1 or 2 attributes with higher values on one core. So you have to balance the values you already have in your build, like those dedicated by cards and enhancing Protocores. Here are some examples of cores that I found and used to build a team for Xavier KoD. The choice of beta cores depends on the rank of solar pair cards you have, but also on the type of fight. I recommend testing them within your range to see what suits you best. Please keep in mind that my suggestions are based on my own experience. You can choose this companion when you want to use other solar pair cards, but remember that you lose ton of buffs, and you have to choose beta cores to match the rank of the solar pair cards used. We can find short matches that last up to 1.5 minutes. For example, challenges in Senior Hunter contest are often short, so it's unnecessary to use off recovery there. That's why try to use 2 energy or 1 energy and 1 HP bonus on beta cores. For longer challenges that last 2 minutes or more, you will need to create at least 2 Ardents off. So it's necessary to place 1 off recovery for R0 and V. R1 and V can use 1 energy and 1 HP bonus for higher damage, but if you found problem in rotation, please use 2 energy cores. R2 and R3 and V have incredible flexibility because of 4 energy charges. If you use the rotation correctly, you can safely use 2 HP bonus on beta cores. I'd like to point out that while testing Xavier KoD, I noticed that using HP bonus instead of strength gives better results. I hope you've been honored with your desired companion and have a wonderful time with your Bunny the King.